Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. My special guest today is Maria Icenogle. She is the Education Director at the Highland Center for Natural History, which is just east of Prescott, Arizona, in the Prescott National Forest, about 2 miles off of Highway 69 along Walker Road, a real historic road up into Bradshaw Mountains. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I should also add that Maria serves on our Board of Trustees here at Sharlot Hall Museum,
Indeed.
Prescott Historical Society, and the Sharlot Hall Historical Society. And Maria, it's just great to have you here on the show. And, before this, we were talking just about the beauty of the season here in Prescott in November. It's such and we've had mild changes of our seasons this year, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. In fact, I was noticing a mixed flock of American robins and cedar waxwings in my yard earlier today. And I thought, that's a harbinger of something afoot, some change in our weather pattern and atmosphere that is welcome with as warm of days as we've been having.
Most definitely. And I think what's each of us who lives here up at the Mile High community in the Prescott area, in the foothills of the Bradshaw Mountains, we are fortunate, depending on wherever we live here, kind of in this Quad City area of the central Arizona highlands, that to be very, nature is part of our everyday experience here. I think that it's not strange for you to meet somebody standing in line and to talk about the weather and the seasons, because and this year they have not come at us like a freight train. They've kind of come gently as our seasons have transitioned. I don't think the summer was too hot. The fall we haven't gone from summer to fall to winter. We've just had this nice kind of real pattern of seasons here this year. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes, and I think our gardens and our yards reflect a gentler year. Maybe not as much water as we would want, but we haven't had as many torrential rains and
certainly
monsoons and hailstorms that sometimes can really affect how we live here.
Right. And it's been so beautiful. I'll share, I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to through hike the Prescott Circle Trail from my front door near Willow Lake. And the colors were just phenomenal and only got more sharp since then in the past couple of weeks since. So
that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't think I've done that trail. I need to do that.
It's worth doing, definitely.
Well, Maria, I just came before our podcast today. I was at Yavapai College, and another partner of ours here in the community of culture and community, and at an Ollie class for seniors. And I was talking about how Sharlot Hall became an Arizonan. So, Maria, how did you become an Arizona? Did you drop into Prescott from an alien spaceship, or how did you get here?
Oh, I love that question. That's such a good question. Believe it or not, I became an Arizonan by way of the Appalachian Trail, which is intuitive, right?
It sure is.
A 2,200-mile footpath from Georgia to Maine clearly brings someone to Prescott, Arizona.
Oh, I can make the connection a little bit, but I don't know if my friends in North Carolina would get it that quickly.
So I've been rooted in the Prescott community since about 2012.
Okay.
Prior to that, I'd held a lifelong dream, always having been someone connected to nature and to myself through spending time outdoors and spending time in the woods. I'd always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail. I was living in Denver at the time and was in a transitional space in my life and just thought, you know what, it's not now or never, but in terms of being dramatic enough to get my feet on the southern terminus, it's now or never.
Right.
And so my joke is that I met some strange guy in the woods and started walking with him and just kind of never stopped. And we've been married since 2014. He has...
Wow,
yeah,
I love that.
Right.
That's fantastic.
It's maybe not entirely conventional, but...
Charlotte wasn't a conventional woman either,
Right.
She was a woman of adventure who took a step forward where no one else was.
And so nothing new under the sun from the 1920s to now and to beyond. So he had lived and taught in Prescott since 2006. And so when I was deciding, do I land back in Denver or do I venture out and find out what Arizona is all about, that was my original path here. And since being here, I'll tell you, Stuart, I absolutely love it. This is 100% home. It is that rootedness in community that I seek. It's all of the beauty that you and I were talking about prior to beginning our conversation on the podcast. And it's been a real joy to be here and to be in the community. And it's been a real joy to be on the board of trustees for Sharlot Hall Museum and Prescott Historical Society.
Well, Maria, we love having you part of Sharlot Hall Museum as one of our trustees. And, you talking about growing up with nature right out the door. I grew up in North Hollywood, California. Wow. And, at a little young age, you kind of find adventure in your backyard. But, I'll give you a little juxtaposition. I walk to school every day, and a lot of people don't know what Los Angeles is all about. We had a nice tree-lined neighborhood. But there was no grass on our playgrounds at Burbank Boulevard Elementary School. It was all blacktop. And so as a kid, you would just treasure, ask your parents to take you to a park or take you to something more than a park, to the beach or to Griffith Park, or if we came to Arizona, to come up here to Yavapai County and get out into nature.
Sure.
Where did you grow up, Maria?
I grew up in southern Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
So when you think of Indiana, I don't know if cornfields come to mind, and certainly there were those there. But where I grew up was just on the cusp of Hoosier National Forest.
Okay.
In a really small town called French Lick. If you're a Larry Bird fan, you've heard of French Lick.
Sure.
I joke that my dad stole his gas station job because Larry was too concerned with playing basketball, which is actually true.
Right.
So very rolling hills, very kind of foothills of the Appalachians. And
Ohio River Valley,
next to a large reservoir that was part of the Tennessee or the Corps of Engineers project in the 70s that came in. And so I didn't know, as we don't when we're small, how fortunate I was to have had those woods right outside my front door and to have had the opportunity to have parents who really fostered that wonder, that joy of discovery in me, that really set their trajectory for my life and for my life's work, which is, I know, that through line to why I so enjoy helping others connect with nature even today.
I think that we all, at a certain age, we start to reflect on those crossroads in our lives. And that I know that when I was in college and then after college working, I was working at Arizona Highways, and I had a friend of mine who was from Massachusetts, and I had gone to college at Wake Forest in North Carolina. Now, I was kind of an alien in a strange land coming from Los Angeles. I'd had family from Virginia, but I started to realize at a certain point that I was different growing up in Los Angeles, that more people that I knew grew up in a smaller town, and the community had more access closer to nature. And then, that parents in Los Angeles had to work hard, to find an opportunity to get their kids into nature. And so I found myself at certain times kind of, a little jealous of those friends of mine who were like, oh yeah, we grew up skating on our frozen pond and playing hockey outside. And
it's like, wait a minute.
Wait a second. That only happens in the movies, doesn't it?
Right.
So we're going to take a break here in just a moment. But before we do, did you spend your college time in Indiana, or did your trails start to leave the Midwest as you started to look forward ahead in your life as you grew up?
I love the way that you put that. Indeed, I intrinsically knew that I needed to get out and to have some of those wide open spaces. The first time around, in my first iteration of my career, I went to a small college outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, which was the perfect distance for me at the time. And then as soon as I knew Colorado existed, that's where I decided to set up shop.
You went west.
Right. I went west. And then a few years ago, I decided decided to embark on a career path as a wildlife biologist, which then led me to my role at the Highland Center. And I completed that schooling through Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University here in Prescott.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about your Appalachian Trail adventure and how people here in Prescott can discover their own Appalachian trails.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stuart.
For over 45 years, Blind Brothers Arizona has been the heart of window style in Prescott. From blinds, shutters, drapes, they will custom design and install with expert precision, tailored just to you, whether it's for your home or your office. You can trust the name that locals rely on. Visit blindbrothersarizona.com today or call them at 928-776-1845. Once again, that's 928-776-1845 for a free consultation. Blind Brothers Arizona, the original since 1979.
The Highland Center for Natural History helps children and adults discover the wonders of nature and become wise caretakers of the land through outdoor education, exploration, and lifelong learning in the Prescott National Forest. If you'd like to learn more about the Highland Center for Natural History, go to highlandscenter.org. That's highlandscenter.org, highlandscenter.org. The Highland Center for Natural History, located just outside of Prescott, Arizona, in the Prescott National Forest off of Walker Road. Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. My special guest today is Maria Icenogle. She is the educational director at the Highland Center for Natural History, a really special place here in Prescott, nestled in the Prescott National Forest. And that's right, if you're listening to this, the beautiful Prescott National Forest, which stretches across our beautiful high Agua Fria grasslands into the Sonoran Desert and then up into the ponderosa pine forests, 7,000, 8,000 feet. It's a really beautiful, diverse area of the Central Arizona Highlands. And we are very lucky here in Prescott to have Maria as an educational director of the Highland Center, helping educate people and inspire people to know more about their natural surroundings. And I find really interesting, Maria, is that you grew up in southern Indiana.
Right.
Now, give me a little perspective on the map. I can see the map in my mind. My wife's family is from southwestern Indiana, Washington County.
Okay.
But you said that French Lick is more towards southeastern Indiana. Where is it in the kind of geography of Indiana?
Oh, so on the spot with Indiana geography, it is close to Washington County, actually.
Really?
So I'm envisioning it as, so let's see, south. I believe it's actually a little bit southwest.
Davies County is in there?
Davies County is neighboring county, and then Washington County, and then flanked by, what else is it? Crawford.
Okay.
And, oh, wow, this is interesting. I've been away for a while.
Well, you know, what's interesting about that is we were talking about Sharlot Hall and the fact that Sharlot Hall became an Arizonan.
Yes.
I've met some wonderful people across the country where I've lived, and one of the great questions people ask is, where are you from? Where are your people from? I heard that in Texas and Virginia. Where are your people from? And or how long have your people been here? And there are lots of wonderful residents here in the Prescott area whose families across Arizona, of course, have been here a very long time. Of course, our neighbors, the Yavapai people, have been here from the beginning.
Right.
And but I like to talk to people about how they became an Arizonan, because Sharlot Hall, she didn't drop out of an alien spaceship in Prescott. Her she came here as a child, as an 11-year-old, and she took observations along the Santa Fe Trail like Laura Ingalls did on her family's travels across the Midwest. And so I asked these questions about where you grew up, and where you're from, because I can tell you, my wife's family, the Eads, my father-in-law, they're from southwestern Indiana. They're from Washington County.
Yeah,
and
that's fascinating.
And they came to Arizona for health reasons, like a lot of other families.
Sure.
And my wife's grandfather had tuberculosis. My father came to the Orem School here in Yavapai County in 1945 because of his asthma.
Wow.
And so what I love to talk, it's always interesting for us to step back and say, what brought you to this community? What makes you a part of this community?
Right.
And how can people become more involved in our community? And it sure seems like you were raised with a lot of those values there in Indiana,
Right,
in a community that was small, like here, and people knew each other. They helped each other, and if you wanted to get involved to make it better, you could.
Indeed.
Have you found that? Have you discovered that here in Prescott?
I found that to be exceedingly true in Prescott. And I've always felt, and I feel that acutely here, that if we want to understand if we want to understand nature, for example, if we want to understand those connections to the land, we can't separate that from that human story.
Right.
And that's why I love that you lead with that and that curiosity, really, of how did you become an Arizonan? Because that human story is so interwoven into that cultural piece of what connects us, of what roots us, of what helps us find that sense of place, which is what ultimately is going to be what preserves this environment and the Central Highlands ecoregion in general for the future. So it's incredible to me to be a part of organizations that interface with those missions and with those through lines from history to future, and also, hey, what does the present have to do with where we're going into the future, and how do each of our individual stories weave into that and affect that connection for others.
What I find interesting about the Highland Center for Natural History is that when you talk about, I was talking earlier today about Sharlot Hall and their family's decision to move. And, Arizona is one of those states, and there's many, many reasons that people move somewhere for work or for health or for family. But there is one thing about Arizona that I think comes up over and over. It's the natural beauty of our state. It's our climate. It is, there are many reasons that people who have enjoyed many generations in another location or another country choose to come to Arizona and then choose to come to Prescott. And one of those is our seasons, our climate. It's milder. Sharlot Hall's parents, they followed the dream put forth for them by President Abraham Lincoln. Her parents homesteaded in Lincoln County, Kansas. They thought that was the American opportunity and the dream in 1870 when she was born. And that first homestead up in Lincoln County, Kansas, long, hot summers, harsh conditions to grow a crop on 160 acres.
Oh, yeah.
And then they moved. They moved to another part of Kansas, trying to make it. And then the winters were even harsher than the summers. And I think that we can all sit down with friends here in Prescott who are making their home here, who are making their home here and becoming Prescottonians, becoming Arizonans, becoming part of our community. Have you found that many of your volunteers and your members at the Highland Center are people who have moved here and want to get closer to nature and then want to give back? Tell me about the community at the Highland Center.
Sure. I would say that folks who have always been in Arizona that I interface with at the Highland Center are by far in the minority. Most of us, including both of us, it sounds like, come from somewhere else. And I'm just thinking of Charlotte's curiosity on that trip across the country.
Can you imagine that?
From Kansas, and just the observations that her 11-year-old mind is making and how wide her eyes must have been. And then when it started clicking for her, how she felt, wait a second, this needs to be protected. And so those are the types of connections that I really think people are seeking, whether they're 11 or whether they're 91.
Right.
And not that it ends there either. We have, we serve, everyone,
Right.
all stages and phases of life. But I do think that most people come from somewhere else for whatever reason. And if they end up at the Highland Center, if they end up at Sharlot Hall Museum, it's because of that curiosity. And that's a real opportunity for us to foster that sense of not only home in them and rootedness, but also responsibility, because it's going to
Right.
take all of us into the future. So that's why it's so fun to meet people where they are and to ask those questions, to not make assumptions, but to say, what brought you here? What are you curious to know? What's your baseline of knowledge? And then from a Highland Center lens, be it, if their children are involved in a schoolyard habitat program through one of our outdoor learning environments at PUSD, or if they're involved in family forest play or a nature camp, or, adults come to a talk on turkey vultures or tarantulas. Maybe they find our newly launched Peace in the Pines grief support program that is nature-centric, and they're able to really hone in on nature's healing capacity and integrate that into their lives. Whatever it might be, there's something for everyone, but it starts with asking those questions.
I love that. I love that. Well, as a kid who couldn't wait to get to Yavapai County every summer, many kids probably wouldn't want to leave Los Angeles and spend their summers at the beach, but I just couldn't wait to get out under the big blue skies of Central Arizona Highlands. We're going to take a break here. We're going to thank our sponsors, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit about what the Highland Center's mission is, what people can discover there, and a little bit, we're going to try to help people understand what the Central Highlands of Arizona are.
Beautiful.
And we'll come back from this break.
Great. Thank you.
Step back in time on Saturday, December 6th and experience the magic of Frontier Christmas at Sharlot Hall Museum. Starting after the courthouse lighting ceremony, the museum will glow with holiday cheer. Enjoy complimentary hot cider and cookies, create Victorian-inspired crafts, and stroll through glowing luminarias. Father Christmas himself will be there with special treats for all. Shop unique gifts at the Bashford House Museum store featuring Arizona history books, handmade jewelry, and more. Bring the whole family and celebrate the season in true territorial style. Visit charlottehallmuseum.org for more information. Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. My special guest this afternoon is Maria Icenogle. She is the Educational Director at Highland Center for Natural History here in Prescott, Arizona. And it's one of the most beautiful places here in our community. It is a partner in our cultural community, from the Phippen Museum, the Museum of Indigenous People, the Western Heritage Center, the Center for Natural History, Sharlot Hall Museum. We are in a blessed community of men and women who are here as professionals, volunteers, and docents who are, endeared to the idea that we need to preserve our culture, right, but we also need to share that with new residents and new generations. And so tell me about how you became the educational director at the Highland Center and how that's fulfilling a lot of your goals personally and professionally.
Another great question, Stuart. Thank you. Since I've been in Prescott since 2012, I've always known of the Highland Center for Natural History and sort of held it up as the ideal of, wouldn't it be cool to work there someday, just given my interests. And so kind of had a pulse on it from the beginning, had explored some of the site and the programs. And then it was really a matter of timing for me. I went back to school for a degree in wildlife science from Embry-Riddle. I worked for a time as a contract field biologist. I worked several seasons with Arizona Game and Fish doing bald eagle nest watch work mostly in the desert in remote tribal areas, and embarked on some other endeavors. And then the timing was right. And so I've been with the Highland Center since 2022. So I'm coming up on 4 years there, and it feels like trying on a really good pair of hiking boots that just fit.
Oh, that's
and
great.
So it's been off to the races since sort of day one there, with so much good left to do. And I couldn't be more grateful to have found my home there.
That's fantastic. You know, recently I've been talking to people about those of us in the business of nonprofits, museums, and educational centers. And I'm using this phrase that we all who are responsible for our museums and our history centers and our natural history laboratories where education is the core of it. Tell me about your 9-year-old self. If I was a 9-year-old walking into the Highland Center for Natural History, what's the first thing that's going to capture my imagination?
The bugs.
The bugs. I love it.
Bugs.
The bugs.
If you're a 9-year-old walking into the Highland Center for the first time, the first thing that you're going to be greeted with are giant metal bug sculptures.
I love it.
That are beautiful, and that an artist, Gerald Schwartz, and his wife Rita recently donated those to us in the past couple of years, and we've developed some interpretive signage and a scavenger hunt around those. And once you get deeper in, of course, there are other things that make your jaw drop, but I think you're initially enamored with the bugs.
I love it. I think that any 9-year-old who has spent any time outdoors in central Arizona is going to discover the bugs. So we'll get past the bugs, and what's the next thing I'm going to discover is going to capture my imagination?
Well, the Highland Center is an 80-acre campus, believe it or not, on Prescott National Forest land. Although we are not funded governmentally, we're a typical nonprofit. The bulk of our funding comes from individual contributions. So our site there, the organization has been around for about 30 years, but the site off Walker Road, we broke ground on the James Learning Center, I want to say 2007, 2008.
All right.
And then other elements have added onto that since then. And we're a sustainable campus, we're off-grid, and we have a really cool nature store. So if I'm 9 and I'm wandering in past the bugs, I might try the knob of the nature store and really hope it's open so I can get a cool puppet of a raven or a junior ranger badge or something of that sort. And then I might venture into our discovery gardens, which are fully ADA accessible paver pathway, walkway that are 5 acres of what we refer to as sort of front country. We have the back country experience as well with our trails and our trail system that all links up to other connectors. And see what I did there? I said links, and I didn't even mean to say that, but you can walk.
Links.
You can walk
hit
to
Links Creek.
Yeah, Links Creek, Links Lake, all accessible from
and
our site.
You know, Sharlot Hall grew up along Links Creek, right?
I do.
That's her country right there.
Yes. So I love that through line too between the organizations and that cultural piece. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And so it sounds like it's the perfect place for a 9-year-old or a 90-year-old.
It is. It really is.
And how can people learn more about what's happening at the Highland Center this winter? And if they want to get involved, is there a website?
Yes.
And what kind of activities are coming up in the next few weeks?
Thanks for asking. So stop on by any day. We are free and open to the public 7 days a week, 365 days a year, unless we have to close the gate for snow, which we're kind of hoping we get some snow that's substantial enough to do that.
We need some good snow this winter.
But to learn about our upcoming programs, and the most expeditious way to do that is to sign up for our newsletter. You can do that from our website, which is highlandscenter.org. And if you're on there for any length of time, there'll be a pop-up that says, please subscribe to our email newsletter. You do that, we don't inundate you. It's 1, maybe 2 emails a week. And it gives you a running tab of all the upcoming programs. One of the neat things that we have coming up is our Winter Luminaria event.
Sounds beautiful.
It will be. We're excited to bring that back. So there are 2 nights for it this year, December 19th and 20th.
All right.
Tickets are available at present, and it's a nice candlelit stroll through the Discovery Gardens with some campfire time, some soups, some hot chocolate, and just really good time in community with that cold, crisp, central Arizona highlands air.
Yeah, I love that. And you got me at campfire. Tell me about the campfire. Do you have campfires all year long, or tell me about your campfire programs?
Oh, we love campfires. And I don't know, Stuart, do you know anybody who enjoys campfire stories at all?
I sure do.
Really?
Quite a few people. Actually, both myself and my colleague here, Tim McGill, who is our business manager, he and I both actually became friends working at the Orem Schools Quarter School Fee Bar Ranch Camp in the in the 80s. And I believe that campfire is the quintessential Western experience for enjoying camaraderie, community, storytelling, poetry, songs, and
s'mores.
And s'mores, yes, most definitely. Campfire is a key part of life here in Prescott and Central Arizona Highlands. And sounds like a beautiful 2 nights you have planned for the public in December 18th and 19th and 20th?
19th and 20th,
That's
yes,
all right.
indeed
That
it will
great.
be. So that's one upcoming program that will be just, I think, really ideal for the entire family.
That sounds fantastic. And now if I wanted to volunteer at the Highland Center for Natural History, and it's Highlands with an S,
Highlands
Center,
with an S, yes.
Highland Center.
.org.
Okay. When can I become a volunteer if I wanted to get involved?
You can become a volunteer today.
Hey, all right.
As I suspect is true at Sharlot Hall Museum.
That's very true.
Yes.
We depend on our volunteers, and I think Sharlot Hall really is she's a role model for our community, and we look back on our community. It is our civic groups and our volunteers who help really at the core of the Prescott community. And I like to tell people, I said, without docents and volunteers, we would not be able to do so much for the public and be able to continue these valuable programs to educate our youth as well as our new residents, and then remind people of our old-time residents more about their history and heritage.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Stuart, and I think that you mentioned earlier when we were talking about newcomers to town of looking for a way to give back. And I'm a volunteer in my life outside of work. I presume that the same is true or has been of you.
Most definitely.
And I think we're all looking for that piece of, wow, this land has been so good to me, or the human connections that I've made have been so formative for me. How can I give back? And so there are plenty of ways, and Highland Center as well as Sharlot Hall Museum are always happy to explore those with people and to really find a good fit and a good niche to feel not only effective toward the mission of the organization and toward the future of our community, but also personally fulfilled, which I think is an important part of volunteerism as well.
Most definitely, Maria. We're going to take a quick break here and thank some of our sponsors here at Sharlot Hall Museum. And we're going to come back and talk a little bit about the Highland Center for Natural History, about Sharlot Hall Museum, about this upcoming winter season and how to enjoy it the best way possible, safely, and enjoying nature in this beautiful winter season and season of Thanksgiving that's approaching us. The Highland Center for Natural History, just off of 1375 Walker Road in Prescott, Arizona, 86303. That's at highlandcenter.org. It's a little known fact that Sharlot Hall loved pumpkin pie. In her Poems of a Ranch Woman, published posthumously in 1943, Sharlot M. Hall's poem, A Pumpkin Pie, is a great little tale and a great little poem for Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Pumpkin pie. First, catch your pumpkin. Select a small pumpkin that's solid and sound. The large ones are apt to be stringy, I have found. Peel and cut in small pieces and put in a pot. Pour over it a quart of water that's hot. Let it cook for 3 hours. Stir once a while. It's best to just simmer, not furiously boil. Mash up smooth and fine and add sugar to taste. Add a good lump of butter. Will not be a waste. Clove, nutmeg, and ginger of each 1 teaspoon. Of cinnamon double, and your sass is now done. Stir it well and let simmer. Meanwhile, you may make your crust up and line the pans ready to bake. Break 6 eggs in a dish and beat them up light. Just whisk all together the yolk and the white. Add a quart of sweet milk, then 2 teacups of sass, or more if it's needed to form a thick mass. Pour it into your pans and thoroughly bake. And if John doesn't prefer it to angel's food cake, no woman will be more astonished than I, for this is the rule for a prize pumpkin pie. A Forest Lullaby by Sharlot Hall. Wind among the green leaves singing, bend the branches as you go. Gently, gently that they're swinging, hush the little heart below. Still the busy little fingers softly close the dark fringed eyes, for no gleam of daylight lingers in the dusky twilight skies. Silver stars come peeping, peeping, weaving with your shining beams. Round my drowsy blossom sleeping, fairy spells of happy dreams. Lullaby, O captive rover, all your playmates are at rest. Bees have left the scented clover, baby birds are in the nest. Little rabbits warmly cuddle in the grasses soft and deep, and the wee white daisies huddle in the shadow fast asleep. Lullaby, my bird, my blossom, sleep, my light-winged butterfly, cradled safe on earth's brown bosom, till the morning you shall lie.
Wow. Do you know how old Sharlot was when she wrote that?
I don't have a date associated with this, but it was published in 1911.
Wow.
In her collection of poetry called Cactus and Pine. She would have been at that time, she was born in 1870, so she would have been in her early 40s when she published this, her first book. But I suspect that many of her poems were written and gathered from her observations, and that's why I like to really think about her as our Laura Ingalls, and it's one of my goals here at Sharlot Hall to elevate her as and her importance in our literary cultural past that gets lost in us talking about her being a politician or, a trailblazer.
Sure.
But she was a trailblazer as an author here in Arizona. She was very involved with, and became very good friends with Charles Lummis, who was famous in Los Angeles in founding a couple of newspapers, magazines, one Out West, which was a precursor of Yavapai magazine. It was a peer of Sunset magazine in promoting travel and tourism and culture and history. And she was really part of a literary community. And here in Prescott, I'm actually giving a talk this Saturday on the history of filmmaking in Arizona and Prescott's role in that. And as a director here at the museum, trying to bring forth a greater idea and greater community pride on Prescott's role in our cultural history in Arizona, and that from filmmaking to art to theater to music, Prescott's been a center of the arts and culture from the beginning.
Oh yes, definitely.
And I think it's something that, like Payson has Zane Grey, we really, and we have George Phippen, we also have Sharlot Hall, and we need, as Sharlot Hall is so multifaceted that I really like to bring her writing and her, she had something. And I think, Maria, you and I are both in this, in our roles, our cultural roles here in education here in Prescott.
Right.
But I think we both can point to different times in our childhoods. Southwestern Indiana, North Hollywood, California.
Basically the same
French
place.
Lick, Indiana, North Hollywood, California.
Yeah.
But we still had teachers, though, and
Yes.
parents who were opening our eyes to the world through literature, through photography, through the arts, through
Right.
history and culture and theater. So can you remember, reading maybe Emily Dickinson for the first time, or reading or having a teacher who opened your eyes through some form of writing, or it could have been a natural history author, great essays about the West, or just essays about Indiana that captured some of your own moods and your love of nature around you. Do you have any of those memories of someone who opened your eyes to that through the arts?
Wow. I do. In fact, it's hard to hone in on one. I'll share several things came up for me in that reading of Sharlot Hall. I hear you on the pride of the cultural piece, and also what's striking to me is the quiet observation, is the purity of the poetry. And I resonate with that because as a kid in the woods, I mean, my dad made me a desk out of a stump, and I sat and I could just write, and I would just write. And I have just, shelves full of journals of that poetry, and of those observations of sitting and watching a creek go by. And it also creates a connection for me of something that we often say at the Highland Center, that some of the most profound connections, and in this sense we're talking about those connections with nature, those connections with that sense of place, they're quiet, right? Like Charlotte's observations, they're poignant though, and they're profound, and those often are the ones that make the biggest difference, not the ones with exclamation points and fanfare and fame necessarily, but they are the turning point, and so we often say the good work that we do really matters, and sometimes, only sometimes, we get to know about it.
I love that.
Yeah. And so back to your original question, that in that roundabout way, the good work that we do, whether it's, my high school English teacher, Mr. Anderson, that always supported my writing and bolstered that confidence in me, or other ways in which certain nature writers have poured into my life. It's not any one particular individual or piece of writing so much as it is that gestalt impression of, hey, there are people surrounding me that care. And there's also a landscape that's my teacher.
I love that. I love that. Right out the window of your office there at the Highland Center for Natural History. Would you like to read a poem?
I would love to read a poem.
All right. I picked one out here for you. This one's by Sharlot Hall from Cactus and Pine. Actually, I have a copy of her book from our library that she has signed. You can see her signature.
Oh, my goodness.
On the opening page of this book here. This one's called In the Bracken. I think this is a great way to culminate our show here today.
In the Bracken by Sharlot M. Hall. Scent of the pine on the hilltops, rush of the mountain breeze, and long, deep slopes of bracken fern like sunlit emerald seas. Gray old rocks where the lizards hide and chattering chipmunks play, where the brown quail leads her timorous brood through the fronds that bend and sway. Home of the doe and the spotted fawns, shyest of woodland things, haunt of the hawks that dip and dive on circling fearless winds. The skies bend down with a deeper blue, where the white clouds drift and hover, and the tall peaks drowse in the golden haze that dapples their forest cover. The needles whisper an endless song as the brown cones bend and nod. Oh, rest, with the bracken and pine in the strong green hills of God.
Wow. Well, Maria Icenogle from the Highland Center for Natural History, thank you for joining us today on Arizona Roundup.
Thank you.
I wish you and your family a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we hope that all of our listeners today will take time to go to highlandcenter.org to learn more about the good works you're doing here for our community in Prescott, Arizona.
Thank you, Stuart. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Well, thank you so much. We'll see you next week on Arizona Roundup at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona.
Heart